Hey everyone, today we're going to be putting together a FireSense patio heater. I just wanted to say thank you real quick before I get into the video today to all of my subscribers, all the people who have liked my videos and taken the time to reply. I just really appreciate the interaction that I have with my community. Let's build a heater. Hey everyone, appreciate you tuning back in. Thanks for visiting the channel again. For all of you who have subscribed, I really appreciate that. Today we're going to be putting together one of these patio heaters that you see on the patios of bars or restaurants. Something to help you keep warm on a cool evening. We got one for behind our house. Let's get it together. We're going to go ahead and get this open and start the assembly. Your instructions there. Different packaging here. Pretty substantial base material. Another piece of pipe there. This is going to have, it's the very base, the part that actually sits in the ground, I believe. And then it actually has a tank in it, water tank. Fill this up with water, and it gives you a little more stability to your heater. Let's get started. First thing you're going to do is mount the wheel assembly here. Helps you to move it around to the base. Alright, so one thing I noticed right away, which is actually pretty cool, is that the package that they give you that has all of the parts with it actually says underneath each part which step that part goes with. So you find the small bolts that has step 1 and step 2, so it's these little bolts, and you know right away that goes with the first and second step. Nice work, FireSense. I think it's safe to say this ain't your mama's patio heater. That was mainly for my kids, because my kids make fun of me because I said this ain't your mama's mac and cheese in the Annie's mac and cheese video. I'll put a link to that one either down below or at the end of the video to make sure you don't miss that incredible cinematic event. Alright, put it in on. Use the same bolts as the step 1 there. And there's just 3 holes in the top of this base piece. And just tighten these up. We don't have to tighten these up yet. Just get them kind of snug. This piece is the base for the heater part. That's going to sit right on top, like so. And you use the longer bolts to tighten this down to these, which will of course automatically get these aligned properly as you're tightening this up. So go ahead and get that going. And so this stuff, you got 6 of these bolts here. Have the bolt and a washer. Again, it says right on the packaging step 3 for these parts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one side, get the bolt in, just start that nut. That's just going to basically hold it in place. And then I'm going to use completely opposite side, I'm going to put the other bolt and nut. Then do the same thing on the back one. Just get the very farthest outside bolt in place and tighten the nut on that. And before I use the wrench to tighten anything, I'm going to go ahead and get the other bolts inserted with the nut on it. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me the flexibility to kind of pull, rotate, adjust each one of these posts to get these holes lined up just right before I get anything tightened down, and make it much easier to get assembled. And then once you have all of these in place and just hand tightened, then you can come back with the wrench and I know they only give you this small little wrench. Normally I would just go get my socket set to tighten this up, but I'm going to try to use what they provided just in case somebody watching does not have a socket set or kind of standalone tools. So far, I mean, it feels cheap. It's a cheap tool. It's a one-time use. You know, you use it to assemble this one thing. But so far, it's going. So for this next part, we've got to get the housing, actually, this piece here, over this bottom part. So this is just basically a shroud to cover the tank. I'm going to put the second part of the post on. We've got these holes on the top of this shroud for the very top of the heater. That's going to take one of these studs, solid metal kind of bolt looking thing, goes through a washer and then into the top of this. That's basically going to hold the reflector on top, and it'll reflect a lot of that heat back down at you. Got to fish this hose down through it. Actually, I'm going to pull this off. Save that for later reading. Fish the hose down. Through the middle there. And then this piece has 4 holes here all the way around that you're now going to put. There's some small bolts with lock washers, and we're going to screw those in, and that'll hold this. You don't want to cross thread these, so just play with it a little bit, make sure that it is lined up properly, that you're actually getting it in the threads. Once it's lined up and once you're threading it the right way, it should go in very easily. And again, I would normally be using my socket set for this, just to make sure everything gets tightened down, but for the purposes of this video, I want to make sure that this entire thing can be assembled with only what they give you. So the only thing I've used so far is just my knife to open the boxes. That's the only thing I've used that they didn't provide. All right, so once you have those tightened down, next step is you're going to get these reflectors set up. Be careful, these are pretty thin. You don't want to bend them and distort them while you're getting that off. So take your time, get those pulled off. Now, put the access on one of these. Put that on top of the one next to it, and put your screw from the bottom, so that goes up from the bottom through 2 panels, and then your nice round screw, nice round nut will go on top. Making sure that you put the screw up from the bottom is essentially going to make sure that you're not going to have water sitting down in the head of that screw, because if you put it on the other way, the Phillips head of that screw is going to be sticking up, rainwater is going to get in there, and it's going to rust out a good bit faster. The other thing to remember during this process is that you want the reflection to go down. So this is going to sit up on top of this whole assembly, and so it kind of has a dome feel to it. It's angled a certain way. It has a bend to it, and you want that cone to be pointing down. So while you're assembling it, just make sure that it's not like this. You want it to. Once you have one together, just move on around to the next one. Same as with the other bolts and everything, as you're assembling this, you want to not fully tighten these yet. Just kind of hand tighten it, not too much, because you're going to set the main, the top piece, the cap for the reflector in the middle, and you may have to do some adjustments just to get it right before you tighten all these down. All right, so this will set right on top. There's holes all the way around there. So messed up a little bit. When you're assembling the base of the reflector, only put the outside bolts and screws and nuts in. The top ones will actually go through the center cap as well. When you're assembling this part, go ahead and put the screws that go in through all 3, the ones basically at the creases here. Put those in first, because those are going to be the most difficult to line up. You're having to line up 3 different pieces of metal at the same time. All right, so once you have that assembled, next step is to get it up on top. Carefully lean it over. You're basically going to put your 3, you have 3 more of these flat washers, put those on top of these studs that were assembled earlier. This will line up with those studs, 3 holes in the middle, and then it takes these little butterfly nuts on top. Those should spin on pretty easily. So there's your heater. That's pretty much got the assembly done. The last thing that we need to do is get our tank hooked up, and then we're going to test it out. Make sure that was understood. All right. So to get your tank in, you got your hose that we fed through from the top here. That is going to screw into this piece here. It's a flared fitting. This is a flared fitting as well. You just got to make sure you don't cross thread that as you're putting it on. So you don't want to put any sort of sealant on that thread, on that fitting. You don't want to put any Teflon tape, pipe dope, anything like that, you don't want to put it on there. Just tighten it down nice and tight with a small pair of channel locks, not included, so I did have to use those. And then we want to attach it to our tank. Tight. And the tank will just sit right inside it like that. They give you a chain, little security, I guess. Make sure that tank doesn't fall out somehow. The last thing that you're going to need with this particular heater is it actually has an electric lighter, starter I should say, and so it needs a AAA battery. They don't include a battery. Seems to be working. So make sure this valve is off to start with. I'm going to turn on the gas down here. Or anything. I'm not smelling any propane. Down and I'll start this thing up. Smoke there, burning off the newness, as they say. Look up in there and see the fire. I can already feel the heat coming down off of it. So it's turning red over there. Got a little bit of wind today, but it's it feels good. I can already feel it even kind of against the wind. And that's the finished product. That should help keep us a little warmer out here on the patio. Like I said, that smoke is normal. It says that in the packaging, so don't be alarmed at that. I appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate you dropping by to see this video, but I've got a lot more videos on my page. Have details about assembling things, different projects that I have around the house, and hope to see you again real soon.